Hello, you're listening to episode 281 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. So today I'm joined by Stacey MacNeill, who is the lady behind Fox Under the Moon, which I've seen. I met you at, it was Theo Paphitis' small business Sunday event in 23, wasn't it? We
It
met.
certainly was, yeah, almost a year ago today, almost about maybe, I don't know, 11 months ago, yeah.
Mad. And obviously I followed you because the drawings are awesome. And I've seen actually people like my followers people that I follow
Mm.
who weren't at that event have been sharing your stuff as well, which is
Nice.
lovely. But yeah, I was really keen to just chat to you all about your business, how you started it, the kind of highs, the lows, all of it. So let's start with finding out a bit about you and how you started Fox Under the Moon.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually, well, I think it's quite an interesting story. I mean, the business itself kind of started as an accident, to be honest. It was kind of very much one of those hobbies or experimental things turned into a business. But kind of going back a little further than that to kind of give a bit of context, my husband and I were both primary school teachers back in the day, and both of us had our various kind of mental health and stress related issues while we were working in teaching, and it culminated in us almost ending our marriage, having mental breakdowns in 2018. And so instead of kind of carrying on down that destructive path, we decided to make a huge change. So we sold our house, we quit our jobs, and we moved into a little touring caravan. And we just set off with very little money behind us and very little idea of what we were going to do, just knowing that we couldn't afford our mortgage and that we were completely miserable in the life we were in. So so we did that in 2018, which meant that we had ended up working and living on a campsite up in North Wales by the time the pandemic hit, which meant we were then both out of work, of course, because the campsite closed. So Jamie, my husband, got a job with the NHS as part of the vaccine programme, and I was a bit of a loose end. I wanted to put something positive out into the world because I wasn't really doing much else. I had a friend of mine also struggling at the time, and I couldn't find a greeting card or something to send to him that would sort of say the right thing. So I thought, you know what, I've got this time, I'm going to create one. So I made a little picture with a little saying on the bottom, and then I shared it on social media. He shared it, my mum shared it, and it snowballed. And that turned into then several people kind of getting in touch and saying, oh, I love that. It was all around like the idea of feeling a bit lost in life. And people then got in touch and said, oh, could you do one about grief? Could you do one about hope and this kind of thing? So I thought, okay, yeah, I quite like it. Bearing in mind, never ever painted anything in my life before.
I was going to say, did you come from like a mega arty background?
Not really, no. I mean, I studied graphic design at school, but I did geography at university, and then obviously, yeah, I went into teaching. I've always been creative, but not particularly arty. My sister's really arty, so she should be really running this business. But yeah, when I started, because I picked up watercolor just again as a hobby in lockdown, and all I could paint was a night sky with stars and a moon, which is why Fox Under the Moon, because the fox was then the development on from that. So yeah, that was, if you see some of the illustrations from back in the day, they are not clever at all, but they got me started, and I think people kind of liked the naivety behind it, maybe, and the little messages that I put with it. So yeah, and that kind of went from there, really. I started digitally illustrating quite quickly because I realized it was much easier to make mistakes and correct them. Yeah, and then I kind of created my first set of greeting cards with about £250 I started with, and they sold out just really before I'd even started kind of packing them up with my mum and dad at their house. So that was
Wow.
nice. That was kind of the little, I guess, the boost that said, oh yeah, okay, this could be something, a bit of pocket money. So I carried on, and then went from greeting cards, and then I created a little book and self-published that, just of the illustrations. And it really just gained a lot of traction on social media, I think, because of the pandemic and how everyone was feeling really kind of low and lost. It really resonated with people, the sort of messages I was putting out. And so I really quickly grew on Facebook, particularly, to sort of 10,000-15,000 followers at the time. Yeah, and just kind of carried on from there, and now I'm up to like almost 250,000 on Facebook and Instagram combined, which is really cool. So
Wow.
that's like the
That's
potted version, yeah.
I love that. I'd love to just talk about the fact that you both had like teaching jobs, decent
Yeah.
salary, appreciate. I couldn't,
Mm.
I've got two children. I couldn't spend every day with the herd of them. I mean, two's enough. But you said obviously about the mental health uh,
Mm.
aspect of that. Was that quite unexpected?
Um, Looking back, no, because I think when you look back, you can connect the dots and see the signs. At the time, it felt like it hit us both like a train, to be honest. I think we'd got very entrenched in the 9 to 5 or 8 till 8 as it was lifestyle, working all hours. And I know, teaching, if you know teachers, or whatever, it's not start at 9 and finish at 3 and have
Yeah.
16 weeks holiday, like a lot of jobs nowadays, of course. But I mean, the demands were sort of increasingly on top of us, and we were finding that we didn't have hardly any time to spend together. Our evenings were taken up with planning and marking, and then weekends we'd work at least a day of the weekend as well. Holidays too, we'd be going in sometimes, and actually being with the kids was the bit we loved.
Yeah.
That was the nice bit, to be honest. It was everything else. Yeah, and I think we kind of, like I say, looking back now, we can connect the dots of how it sort of started to unravel. But we were just, I guess, growing apart, to be honest, because we just didn't do anything quality together. And so we were just stagnating, we were existing, we didn't really go away on holiday. We ended up taking on a lodger in our house just so we could afford to do some renovation work. We didn't have a huge house. It was probably no bigger than you'd expect two teachers, hopefully, to be able to afford, but we still were struggling, with the mortgage. And yeah, we just got to that point where we thought, well, it was really difficult to find another job to match the teaching salary to
Yeah.
pay the mortgage. And so the only option for us was to drastically reduce our living costs, which is why we were like, well, and I think at that point, the sort of van life trend was just taking off. So we went for the less cool version of caravan life.
Look, if it works, it works.
Yeah, well, that's it. And we kind of knew that we didn't want to be moving on constantly, that we wanted to like pitch up somewhere and stay for a few months and work, which is
Yeah.
what we did do. Yeah, and we really, looking back now, I mean, I think people always say we were brave and stuff, but I think we were desperate is what we were.
Mm.
And it did take courage, of course it did. But once the courage was the mental part, because once we'd made the decision that we needed to change, the rest was just practicalities. It was selling stuff, getting rid of stuff, giving things away, putting the house on the market. So, and that's, yeah, I don't know how we did it, but we did, and I'm happy we did. It's got us to where we are now. So,
But I
yeah.
think that there's a lot you do hear a lot of people talk about how they do feel like they're kind of stuck.
Mm,
They're not enjoying themselves. They don't
no,
particularly love their job, but they feel that they're in a situation where because they've got mortgages, children, commitments,
yeah,
responsibilities,
sure.
they can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
actually you can, can't you?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's, and that is like the premise really of how this business is forming as well. It's that idea of giving people that hope that there is always an option. And okay, granted, of course, we don't have children, so it was easier for us. We've got a little border collie who's our child equivalent. So of course it was easier for us to make that decision, but it still came with its challenges, of course.
Mm.
And the thing is as well that you don't have to be as drastic as we did. I mean, we could have downsized. We could have moved into a 2-bedroom flat rather than a 3-bedroom house, for example. That would, that there was always options. I think we really needed the hard reset, but I think it is that important thing. It's to know there's always hope and there's always a way to change a poor situation, whatever that is, even if it's not apparent. And I think sometimes when you step back out of that situation, that's when you see the answers, kind of thing. So yeah, for sure.
Does a
But yeah.
So does a lot of that sort of time when you can reflect on it inspire
Mm,
the work you do now?
definitely, 100%. I mean, it's really nice and organic, the sort of work that I create now, because in the beginning, I think I wouldn't have admitted to myself that a lot of it came from that place, because it was still raw. I mean, when I started this business, it was only 3 years after we'd been through all of that, and of course it was hard. I mean, like I say, it nearly ended our marriage. It was a really tough time for both of us, and it affected both of our mental health horrifically. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and I know now, I can look back and think, yeah, of course I drew on that stuff, that, and from other people and their experiences. And now, of course, because I've got the social media following and I have such lovely messages from people, I'm so privileged to hear their struggles
Mm.
and their stories and their challenges, and that now feeds into more things. So it's a really lovely joined up circle now. So yeah, it's lovely.
So you started with the greetings cards.
Mm.
They flew out.
Mm.
How was it sort of scaled from there? What was the next product? The next product of the book, sorry.
Yeah, so I did a little book, which again I just self-published, and that, I mean, that was a mission and a journey on its own, because I mean I looked into doing Amazon and quickly decided that wouldn't give me the freedom I wanted, the Amazon publishing scheme. So I just did it all myself, researching a printer and made huge mistakes. Very quickly learned that I needed to not just proofread stuff myself because I'm
Oh,
terrible.
I feel that completely. My first book was first published, sorry, self-published, and thank God I've got a very lovely friend who not only did she read it, but she passed it on to her mother to read, and there's stuff that both of us had missed. And I was like, "Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
awful."
And Ria, you've actually got like more than about 100 words in your book. My book is like all pictures, and I still managed to mess up so
Oh,
much.
it's so hard, but I think you read,
Yeah.
like, there is a thing, you read what you think's there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do have a little advantage because I actually handwrite all of the words on the illustrations I do are handwritten. But
Right.
it was the things like where I'd written the about myself or the credits, and I'd just made horrendous. Anyway, I've had some things, but that's another nice thing though about being very personable and open on social media, because I mean, I've had 1,000 Christmas cards done the year before last that said Happy New Year instead of New Year inside
Oh,
them, for
oh
example.
God.
And I mean, that was just one of those hilarious things where I thought, well, I can't change it. So I went onto my Facebook Live and I was like, guys, I've made a huge mess up. And they all obviously found it hilarious and still wanted to buy them because they
Oh,
wanted to
bless
support me.
them.
And in the end, I ended up like chopping off the fronts and like donating to schools and stuff. So they didn't go to waste. But I think there's been so many lessons like that where being human and honest and just being like, you know what, even you might look at me and think, oh, she's got however many followers, she must have it together. I do not have it together. Very much the opposite.
I think that is a really good thing about social media, isn't it? We
Yeah.
can, and it's a real advantage for smaller brands because you can be that
Mhm.
person behind the brand.
Yeah,
You can
definitely.
tell your story and get people to, not get people, but allow people to get to know you and kind of resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think that actually going back, I know I haven't answered your question very well at the minute,
Right.
but going back to scaling, that's actually now is a big challenge for me because I mean so Jamie, my husband, now works full time in the business, has done since April 2022, and we've just taken on 6 months ago our first member of staff, and so of
Wow.
course the team's gradually growing, which is fabulous. But I'm not always the one now sat behind the computer, and so I don't now get, and there's so many comments, I don't get to personally respond to everything, and I feel like I'm at that stage now where I need to be really careful that I don't lose what's created this success for us in the first place, which I think is the personal connection. And I love that as well. It's the bit I like the most, is talking to people and hearing their stories. So I think that's definitely a challenge for a small business who's growing, because I think almost every small business starts somewhere with their little community of people who,
Mhm.
care about you and really sort of, I mean, I've still got people who comment on my social media posts. I recognize their names from way back when I first started, which,
Wow.
and
That's
sometimes I
lovely though.
yeah, meet them at events and stuff, which is nice. Yeah, so that's the challenge. But again, I can't complain about the growth we're having because it's really exciting. Yeah.
Definitely. So, yes, we went from card to book,
Mm.
and then what was the next step?
So essentially, after that, I spent a while doing more cards and more books, and then I started to like niche down even further within mental health and really went down the kind of the grief route, because that was where a lot of my audience were. A lot of my followers were saying, we want something specifically for grief. So I created a little mini book which offers kind of support in grief, and I think that's probably been our best selling product, along with the set of affirmation cards that I've done as well. So that's really nice, and I think they've probably been the things that have given me permission to go away from just books and greeting cards, to try some different products. So we've got, like this year, we've had a little flip desk calendar and bits and pieces like that. We tried a soft toy, which has had limited success. I mean, we ordered 1,000 and 300 of them arrived with the arms sewn on backwards, which was enjoyable.
Ooh, oh, and that's hard in a soft toy because kids would
Yeah,
just be a
of
bit
course. Yeah. So, and
flummoxed by it.
yeah, I mean, and there was a part of me. I mean, we didn't sell those ones. We kind of sorted that out with the company. But there was a part of me that thought, well, I'm a mental health business, and maybe some of my followers would appreciate a not quite perfect fox,
There's
because
a
we're not
metaphor.
perfect.
There's a metaphor in
But
that
I
toy.
I thought it might be a bit of a dangerous line to cross. So I thought, no, not going to go there with that one. But again, that was another example of where you think, well, 2 years ago, the problems I thought I was having are nothing compared to the problems I have. And that gives me hope for now, the problems I'm having. In 2 years, I'll probably think, wow, that was nothing.
Yeah, that was a walk. That was just an
That
average
was
day.
yeah. So, but no, I mean it's exciting because I mean we started doing wholesale stuff as well. Probably around the time I met you, actually about 12 months ago. So we've got about 100 stockists in the UK now, and
Wow.
about probably 12, 15 in the US, a couple in other places, which is cool. Just little independent, lovely gift shops, which is nice. We're growing that slowly. We're also in the process of buying our first premises at the minute. I know the listeners
Wow.
can't hear, but you can see our chaotic office because we live in a 2-bedroom tiny flat, so we obviously had to move out of the caravan once the business took off, and so we're back in bricks and mortar now, but in a tiny little 2-bedroom flat in the northeast of England. And this is our lounge that you can see me sat in. We don't have a lounge, we just have a warehouse.
Fair enough. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
so we're,
you
yeah,
have to do what you have to do, don't you?
absolutely. And we were really keen, always we've been really keen, and this was something I took away, sorry, from Theo's conference, was that step, 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 jump. We don't want to jump too quickly because
Yeah.
we don't want to be in a position where we can't pay our bills or can't pay the staff. I would much rather sleep on a bed of boxes with a mattress on top for a little bit longer than push ourselves to the point where we can't manage, so yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Because I think Instagram, I love Instagram. I love social media a lot. But we see these shiny things and we think, oh, that's what we need. We need a big warehouse. We need a big office. We need snazzy things. We really don't. We need to
No.
have good, solid businesses that there's a profit, that it's sustainable, that we can live on. And that
Mm,
doesn't necessarily mean you need the shiny things. It
no.
means you need to be considered, aware, have that
Yeah.
business acumen and not what it looks like, what it actually is.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point that you make there, because I've lost count of the amount of people that we've met, lovely people. I'm not judging them either, because I understand how it happens, but who have been running businesses for 8, 10, 12 years, and they've got all the things, but they don't take a salary, they don't take any profit out of it, they've got credit cards everywhere, and you think that it looks wonderful from the outside, and actually usually the products are brilliant that they're selling, but they've gone about it in a way that just means that they haven't perhaps had the most sensible thought about, well, ultimately, am I making money? Because if you're not, I know it sounds horrible. I think people don't like talking about making money, but if you're not making money, you're not a business.
Yeah, it's a
And
hobby. It's a
yeah, and
hobby, which is great, have hobbies, but it's not the same.
sure, if you're trying to make a living, and the thing is, there's nothing I want to do less than rip people off or overcharge or whatever. But I think if you can price things fairly so that your customers getting a good deal, you're also making enough that you can live on. I mean, we worked out this morning that we're still not working quite for minimum wage, but we're taking enough to live on, and that's fine. And of course, we're only not even 3 years into the business, but I think that's so important. And at the end of the day, money's not a dirty word in business. It shouldn't be.
It's essential because otherwise, I think again, people think, "Oh, I'll do it for the cheapest," but
Mm,
you're on a race to the bottom then, and
yeah.
that then can affect the quality of the product, and it
Mm,
can mean that you can't do what you're doing because there's
no,
not enough money in it. This isn't about being millionaires necessarily. If you want, if you are brilliant, if you're listening to this as a millionaire, good on
no.
you.
Good for
But it
you.
is good for you. But it's it's not about that. It's about the
Uh,
sustainability of the
yeah.
business, and if it is a business or if it's a hobby, and people should be paid for their work.
Definitely,
And it
definitely, and that's the thing. I think you've got to have realistic kind of expectations for yourself, because I think there's also a real rush for people to sort of move in with product-based businesses like ours, to like move into a fulfillment center or have this huge team of staff and have 10 virtual assistants and all this, and you're just sat in Thailand with an iPad, which I'm sure would be wonderful, but I think that's like the end goal. It's not, and like you miss out on a lot of the enjoyable bits of the doing is enjoyable, like especially young business. Yeah, I think that's really important, just to kind of keep your head a little bit. I mean, obviously we lived in a caravan for 5 years, so we've got very modest taste in life, but we don't wish to be millionaires. We'd like to have enough to be happy, and then everything else we'll try and do good with. But I kind of feel like whatever your wish in life, if it is to be a millionaire, fine, but get there in a way that's safe for you.
That is the thing, isn't it? And there is about what you're willing to risk. And I think
Yeah,
if you're in business, you do have a certain sense of risk, but there's risks to everything, isn't there?
sure.
But it does need to be calculated. And as you say, if you can do it step by step so it works for you, you're not putting
Yeah.
yourself at enormous risk,
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
got to be a better way of doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well being responsible that, like I say, that you're not taking on staff and then not able to pay them, that
Mm,
kind of thing, because that's, to me, that would be the worst thing ever.
mm.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. What you say about being employed is also a risk. I mean, I had a job. I left teaching 2 years before Jamie did, and I worked for a charity. And I was on. They made me redundant in the end, and I had 2 months' notice. So you kind of think, well, I mean, I know there's enough money in our business bank account now to pay Jamie and I for at least for the next 2 months. So actually, in that sense, well, I'm no better or worse off now, and at least I make decisions for myself. I can be flexible with my time, which I definitely think is, for me, the number one benefit of working for yourself is the fact that you get to be your own boss. That sounds really like cliched, but you get to make your own timetable to a large extent. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
love that.
No, definitely. So when did you launch the affirmation cards?
That would have been around this, yeah, February last year, so about 12 months ago. And they've sold really well. Again, I would say like tiebreaker place for our like kind of top selling product. And it's interesting, because I'd never used affirmation cards, considering the sort of business I'm in. It's never something that I would have thought to have bought. I wasn't a consumer. I didn't know anything about it really. So I kept being asked for them, which is why I created them in the end. And I had to do a lot of research into that. And I was amazed actually at kind of how popular they were. And I think possibly what I did just without realizing it was create something a little bit different, because a lot of them that you get on the market are very spiritual, very like almost tarot kind of style, and that kind of thing, and very sort of adult in their language. Whereas I've always wanted to make my stuff not specifically for kids at all, but accessible to all ages, because I think even though the language is simple, the meanings could be from 8 to 88-year-olds,
Yeah.
So I think by having something that looked, I'm not explaining myself very well, but I think with everything that I do, I want to kind of capture the childhood nostalgia feeling of like a storybook, but
Yeah.
with messages that resonate with adults as well. And I think that's what made them popular, because I just don't think there's anything else really doing that, which that was an accident. I can't say that I had any great plan involved there, but that was nice. I am going to do some kids ones this year. I've got a kids journal and kids affirmation cards specifically coming out later this year, which is exciting. Just again, because people are asking for it. So I'm just doing what I'm told.
Is that how you have built your business really? By listening to what your audience want and then reacting to that as you get enough people to know it's not just
Yeah,
an anomaly?
yeah. Largely, I think it's probably 70% what people suggest to me that I then think, oh, and then 30% things that are like vanity projects that I want to do. And then where that is like lovely little crossover in the middle is where the best products are. Because actually, when I thought about it, I thought, I'd love to do affirmation cards. That's really nice. There have been a couple of like the stuffed toys. That was definitely a vanity project for me. I will happily admit that, because I love Jellycat. I'm sure you've heard of Jellycat, the toy brand. I think they're fabulous. And in fact, you can see him up on my shelf, just here, a little
Oh
pup.
yes.
He is very sweet and he turned out lovely, but I wanted to do a stuffed toy. So I went down, I spent more money than I should have done probably doing it. A few people had asked for one, but then when it came to sell them, they certainly didn't sell as quickly, and we've still got quite a few left. So that was an example of where perhaps I should have let my head rule my heart a little bit more. I mean, they will sell eventually. I'm not concerned, but I think that it definitely is a lesson to go with what people are wanting. I think especially if you've got an audience that's kind of weighty enough to give you that advice. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I think with the kind of brand that you've got as well, people are really invested because
Yeah.
the messages that you put out, the messages you create really do speak to them, and
Mhm.
often at quite a vulnerable time as well.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, and I think that's where our the way we approach customer service has to be a little bit different as well, because obviously we get our share of people who are kind of the unhappy customers, or not many, admittedly. We're very very fortunate, and I get hardly any horrible comments online, which I know I'm fortunate for. But when people do have something that's upset them or whatever, and they look angry at us or they lash out at us, I think we have to be especially empathetic and sympathetic, because the sort of people generally who are invested in our stuff are probably going through something. And I know you never know what somebody's going through, and everyone has things going on, but I think we always have to have that front of mind, and it's part of our brand voice to care first and foremost and then sort the problem out, so
Yeah.
even if it's not our fault and we can't actually do anything. I mean, if something's been lost in the post, or if somebody's accidentally dropped something and it's broken or whatever, it's not always our problem. We can't always help, but we always try and come from a place of let's care about this person first and go with kindness. I think that's kind of a way to go through life, maybe, anyway, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I think that's very true.
Yeah.
So, along your journey to date, what would you say have been the biggest challenges or biggest challenge?
um I think so. Probably twofold for me. For me personally, I think getting out of my own way has been a big problem. And I think I've suffered in the past with, like probably everyone who's creative or maybe any business owner, of that. I don't know if I belong here. Who am I to say I can do this? Who am I to build this audience? Who am I to say blah? Especially because obviously, fortunately, I haven't been through every single aspect of mental health issues, but I'm talking about them, and so I felt a bit almost like a fraud at times, so
Mm.
that's been a problem. And to be able to sell myself and to push the products and feel comfortable with that is still a journey I'm on, to be honest with you. And my husband Jamie helps a lot because he does a lot of the sales stuff, because he's not directly connected to it, and he's just very good at that kind of thing anyway.
Sure.
And then I think practically the biggest thing that's held us back has been the fact that we always seem to have been in tiny spaces. So obviously the caravan was the start, and we obviously very quickly outgrew that, especially when we were touring around trying to do the business. I mean, it was good fun but horrifically hard.
Mhm.
And then we went from the caravan, we moved into my mum and dad's house, and we took over their attic space, not a converted attic, just the attic, so it was freezing and
Wow.
like this underneath beams. And then we've come to the flat, which we started off, we had a little box bedroom which we started in, quickly outgrew that into the lounge area as well. So I think that's probably practically held us back a little bit, because we were being cautious of not jumping into a premises, and we were quite keen not to rent, we wanted to buy somewhere. And now that we're at the point that we can do that, and we've been really fortunate to have a wonderful friend of ours help us out providing our mortgage for us, because we wouldn't have got a business mortgage because we've not been trading long enough.
Yeah.
So that we've been very fortunate with that, and I think I'm hoping that will be the catalyst for big growth for us now, because we can finally have a proper team. If we want to add more staff on, we can do that. We can we can really expand physically and practically.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah.
Have you had any kind of particular lows along your journey when you've really kind of thought, oh, this is hard, or oh, this hasn't gone well?
um so I guess more on a personal sense actually for that one, because I think we've had, probably again because of our quite quick growth, we've really had the sort of business journey a lot of small businesses would have maybe over 7 or 8 years, we've had in 2 or 3. So I
Yeah.
think it largely has been hugely positive, because it's just been growth and exciting and all the rest of it type of thing. I think my biggest challenge is that in the last sort of 6 months, my personal health hasn't been brilliant.
Right.
I've sort of been diagnosed with like an autoimmune condition, and I've had various bits and pieces. And I think for me, obviously, I'm happy to talk about stuff like that, and I'm not one of these people who just wants to be shiny on social media. But I also don't want to be the person who turns up every day and is, oh, life's terrible. I want to
Yeah.
be the force of positivity that I want the brand to be. And I think for me, because I guess you could say I made a rod for my own back, in that it's such a personal brand that if I'm not front and center, there isn't a business. And I think that's been hard. But on the days when I felt really, really challenged, I think probably I felt like I've not been there and showing up for social media like I should be. So I think that's something going forward. I'm trying to look at outsourcing some, like creating just like the product videos, the stuff where I don't have to be in the video, so that I
Yeah.
don't have to do it all. And I think that's something, I'm a control freak, and I know that's cliched as well, but I think it feels like my baby, the business. And
Yeah.
even my husband joining, and obviously like we've had moments where we've clashed about things, although he's very patient with me, and he's brilliant, and we do very different things in the business that works really well. But I think that's for me is letting go of a bit of that control, and accepting that sometimes I need to take my own advice, and I need to take some time out, and I need to rest and recharge and look after my mental and physical health. And that's an ongoing challenge for me at the minute.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can understand that. And it is a juggle. I think you're right. When you've put something out there. So I mean, completely different. But over Christmas, I managed to get like this really weird kind of eczema all over both my eyes,
Oh
and I just
no.
didn't go on social media. And it's
Mhm.
ridiculous because like, who even cares? But and I'm always saying to people, turn up as you are, you know, wrinkles,
Yeah,
warts and all. And I just felt massively self-conscious about it.
yeah,
And I really beat myself up over that. So I completely, I mean, it's
yeah,
nowhere near what you're going through, but I can understand a small amount of how that
yeah,
feels.
yeah.
Because you want to be one thing, you want to be
Mm,
authentic and this and that and the other because
yeah,
that's who you are. But
yeah.
also you're like, I haven't got it in me. I just
No.
can't, I
Yeah,
can't do
and
it.
that's the thing as well, because I mean, part of mine, the biggest problem for me is it manifests in like horrible itchy hives all over my body, and I get like swelling of my eyes and my lips and stuff, and I like look
Oh,
horrific.
bless you.
And I would have, I mean, probably would shock a lot of people, so I wouldn't come on at my worst, but it wouldn't
Mm.
be the end of the world for me to be not seen looking my best. But I just kind of, I feel like there's a fine line, and some people manage it really well where they can genuinely show up and be really authentic in all the good and the bad and the ugly. But
Mm.
I think because I'm dealing with a lot of people who are going through horrific things compared to me, health wise and personal lives, relationships, everything. And I want to be a positive force rather than a suck. So I think for me, it's like 5% I'm happy to be, oh, this is happening, I've had this horrible breakup, fine. But 95% I feel a responsibility that I need to be uplifting people and not dragging them to where I might feel. And I think that's, again, maybe that's something I need to work on. But I think, yeah, it's just finding ways to manage the personal and the professional, isn't it? I think,
It is a juggle,
Yeah.
definitely. And obviously we've done lows. So what would be like the biggest high on your journey so far?
Oh gosh, I would say probably the one that stands out for me at the minute is our absolute shock winning of the Gift of the Year award last year.
That's
So
amazing.
we're working actually quite closely now with the Giftware Association, which I absolutely love. They're a fantastic organisation, and we entered last year's Gift Awards. Just we thought, wow, why not? Had no intention of getting anywhere. Just thought it'd be nice, and we went to the nice awards ceremony in London. It was lovely because we've been, obviously shortlisted and stuff. Didn't win anything on the night, so we thought, oh, that it's a shame, but we weren't there to win. We were there to just enjoy the atmosphere and all the rest of it. And then a few weeks later at the trade show in Harrogate, they announced the winner of like the People's Choice, which is where you could send out to your like followers, you could get them to vote for you and all the rest of it. And so it was like the public vote. And without sort of bragging, we took it by a landslide. And it was
Oh, amazing.
totally unexpected. I mean, I don't know the exact figures, but I think we had something like 8,000 of the 11,000 votes had voted for us. And obviously, it's because of the size of my audience. So I almost felt a bit like I did feel guilty. And then I checked myself because I
Never
thought, no,
feel
I've got that
guilty.
audience. That's my.
Yeah.
And because obviously I'd gone on and been like, oh, hi guys, I've got this little competition. I don't think I've got a chance. But, and they'd gone out in force because they're just lovely, my
Oh, I
people.
love them.
And yeah, I know. And yeah, so I thought nothing of it because I had no thought that we would win. And so, I mean, it was unreal. I mean, the look on my face must have been hilarious when they announced it. So I think
I
for
love
me
it.
that was just huge for us, and it's been a really good thing for the business as well because it's given me that, like, actually no, this is because it felt like even more than winning what the judges thought, the people
Mm.
thought we deserved it, and that to me was like, oh, that's something.
And they are your customers, they are your
For
people.
sure, for sure. So yeah, no, that was good, and we entered again this year, so we'll see. But yeah, no, that was really
Awesome.
cool.
Love that. And what's to come for Fox Under the Moon?
Mm. So I think once we've moved into the new premises, I want to get back to doing more regular social media with me in it, and I've got this sort of probably egotistical dream, my personal dream of kind of getting more into like public and inspirational speaking. And
Yeah.
even saying that makes me cringe a little bit because there is part of me that thinks, oh, those people are terrible. But I feel like that's a little bit of the business that I'm not great at because I'm not good on stage particularly. I get very nervous. But as a personal thing, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I think I'd like to talk. If I'm outsourcing a lot of my product videos and stuff like that, I would like to talk more about the stuff that impassions me, the mental health side,
Yeah.
doing it through social media, and then hopefully taking that, onto stages, not big stages, but just little events and things like that. I think for me personally, that would be a nice professional journey to go on. And yeah, I mean, we've got, let's say, we've got some kids products coming out. We've got a few more journal based stuff coming up. I want to write a children's storybook, like a proper children's storybook, in the next couple of years as well. So yeah, I guess it seems a bit like whatever to say more of the same, but more of the same, but
No.
better, I guess.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's good that you've obviously tried and tested and adjusted all the time. So it makes sense that
Yeah.
you want to keep doing that and growing in that way.
Yeah, and we really want to build our, like I say, our wholesale side as well, because I would say probably 70% of the sales we make are still direct to customer, and that's lovely, and that will never change. We'll still always do that, but I think wholesale, selling to gift shops and retail, is simpler in many aspects because there's fewer sales and fewer accounts to deal with. And say Jamie's doing a sterling job of leading that part of the business, so he's really taking that on, and I think he'll end up with eventually a little team under him doing that as well. So yeah, that's an area we want to kind of really grow in the next couple of years too. So yeah, it's exciting.
Is there any advice you'd give to people who are, well, who are in a similar situation to you, whether this is that they're feeling really fed up with their job, or whether
Mm.
they are looking to take an idea forward and grow and expand?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, it's possible. I think that even if it seems impossible, it is possible, even if not in the form you think. That there's things you can do and steps you can take. Take it slowly. Take, to make it manageable. Take your family with you in terms of getting the support that you need. And I also think in terms of actually when you do start it and you're growing something, I think humility and being humble is probably, and I'm not saying I've always achieved it, I might add, but it's a lesson I've learned in life personally and professionally, that even if you think you know something, there's going to be someone who knows more about it. And even if there's someone who knows less about it, you can still learn from them too. And I think not to let the ego of success get to you too much, and never forget the smaller people. And I mean that in the nicest possible sense, like I think everybody has something to teach you, whoever they are. And I think it's really important to keep your ears open and to listen and absorb and not speak too quickly and form judgments. That's definitely something that I've had to learn, because I'm very quick sometimes to not to judge but to assume things. And I think that's been a big lesson for me, is stop, wait, listen, and then go when you're ready.
No, I think we all are, aren't we?
Yeah.
We all do that from time to time. So I think
Mm.
that's really, really good advice. Is there anything else you would like to share or add before I ask you all the places that we can find you online?
um I mean, of course, thank you so much for having me. It's been an
Oh,
absolute pleasure, and only a year in the making, hey.
oh no, I really dropped the ball on that. Life just got so
No, no, I
mental.
wasn't. I
And
didn't
no,
mean
no,
that.
no, I take responsibility for that because I was like, this is going to be great. And then I don't know what happened. I think
No.
summer. And
Well, I
then
didn't follow up either, in fairness, because we've both just been so busy, eh? But we've made it
it's been
happen. That's
busy. We have
amazing.
made it happen. Are you heading off to Small Business
Yeah.
Sunday? I
Yeah.
am too. I'm
Oh,
sure.
great. Oh, we'll catch up there properly then. That would be really nice. Yeah, that'll be
I'm
lovely. I'm
so
looking forward.
excited
Can't
about
wait
that.
to see Stacey Solomon as well. That's
I was
exciting.
literally thinking the same thing. So if you're listening to this and you've no
Love
idea what
her.
we're talking about, we're both part of
Yeah.
the Small Business Sunday Club, I'm going to call it. It's not an official
Yeah.
club.
It's a
It's
crew, I
it's
think.
crew, that's it. It's run by Theo Paphitis and his team, and it's this amazing initiative to support small businesses.
Mm.
And they have this incredible event on at Birmingham. I want to say the ICC, something like
Yeah.
that, isn't it?
Yeah. International Convention Centre. Yeah.
In February. And I went for my first one last year, and it was
Was it your
insane.
first one? You spoke at your
Yes.
first one. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, but
Good
I'm a kind of go big or go home kind of girl. So,
Yeah.
it was brilliant. They had Mark Blundell who did a talk. He was awesome. They had a panel with that incredible lady with the amazing dress, Debbie from NatWest.
Yeah, I can't think of her surname. I was just gonna say Debbie, but I can't think what her
Is
name
it
was.
Lewis? Is it Lewis?
Might.
I know
She was
her.
very good though, wasn't she? She's very
She's
good.
awesome. So
Mm,
inspiring. And I've looked at the program and it looks insane for this year, but they've also got Stacey Solomon is the fireside chat
amazing.
person. And I think she's such a not an underdog, but
I was just going to say that word though, because I think she is so underrated for what,
that's it.
because she's so bubbly and sort of, I don't want to say like diminish her at all, but she's so good at being like friendly and oh, everyone's best friend. I
Mhm.
think people underestimate what a flipping good businesswoman she is,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just started, I'm sure I was reading that she's invested in a hair brand, like as an
Yeah.
investor.
Yeah.
And her hair all looks great, so I probably need to get on
Yeah.
that. But, she has developed this incredible personal brand,
Yeah,
and I cannot wait to see her speak. I am
yeah.
really excited about it.
She just seems genuinely like a lovely person as well. Like you would want to like go and have a glass of wine with, wouldn't you?
I'd like to go and stroke her dogs. Her dogs look awesome. I'm all into people's animals. Her dogs look insane. They look so sweet. But no, and I was watching her she did like a little day in the life of, was it a reel or a TikTok? And it was just, I now realize how boring my life is. And I thought, I feel the same. My life is just carnage from start to end.
Yeah,
So no, I cannot wait to hear her speak. It's going to be such
yeah,
an
it'll
event.
be
I
brilliant.
cannot wait.
Yeah, it's been really impactful for us, the whole SBS thing, actually, in fairness. Like we again, we went into that quite blind, but I think that's been really, it's just the people you meet. It's not even the celebrities, and that's great to hear the experts talk and all the rest of it. It's everyone. I like meeting you, meeting various other people. It's just nice. The networking and that kind of thing is brilliant, isn't it?
It is. There was that incredible group of they got called violinists, like the string quartet, the
Yeah,
Capriole.
something
Amazing.
Italian. They were really good though. Yeah, yeah.
They are just, oh, it's just brilliant. So if you are a small business listening, go and follow Theo Paphitis. You can enter on Instagram and Twitter now.
Yeah.
It's Sunday evening. You can enter for like a few hours. They announce it on Monday. Do it. It's
Yeah.
free to enter. And the possibilities are endless. You get like monthly newsletters, you get opportunities for cool events like this. They do other things as well,
Yeah,
don't
they're
they?
even doing like investment and stuff now, I think, aren't they? A bit Dragon's Den styly. So
Yes.
very exciting. And you can enter every single week until you win as well.
Yep. You
Yeah,
absolutely can. I did that for a while completely. But
yeah.
it's a brilliant community. And I haven't been asked to say this, but I think we're both massive Theo fans anyway, and definitely big small business Sunday fans. So do go and check that out.
Yeah.
Where can we find you online, Stacey?
So pretty much if you type Fox Under the Moon into anything online, you're going to find some variation of us. I think I hang out the most on Instagram. So my little Instagram handle is Fox Under the Moon Art on there. Same on Facebook. I do a little bit on TikTok. I'm trying to get better on TikTok. And then my website is foxunderthemoonart.com. So yeah, if you Google us, we'll come up. I even think now if you type Fox Over the Moon, that also comes up with us, because I think that has been searched for so much because people just think we're Fox Over the Moon, which we are when we're happy about things. But it's Fox Under the Moon.
Absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Stacey. It's been great to talk to you. I can't wait to see you at Theo's event, and
Yeah,
obviously keep following the progress and growth of your fab brand.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to chat to you and catch up.
No problem at all.
Wonderful.